All right, my next book is Amazing Spider-Man. The name is Spider. The Spider. Hi, I'm Matt, and welcome to another comic book guy video. As you know, I am Matt. I'm often a co-host to Guy's videos. I also help out with some of his Comic Book Jeopardy videos as well. Now, he just did a video where he gave a little tour of his comic collection, and a few of you have asked to see some of the books I have. Now, these books aren't necessarily the most valuable that I own, but I think they are probably the coolest books that I own. And I narrowed it down to a nice, slim 16. So to start off, as most of you might recognize, this is Werewolf by Night number 32. The first appearance of Moon Knight from 1975. I bought this book on an eBay auction. I got it for about $1,000, and I think that's a pretty fair price. It's a very cool book. I love the artwork. The cover's by Gil Kane, and the interior is by Don Perlin. In this book, the committee hires Moon Knight, who is a mercenary, to capture, Jack Russell. And he uses various, silver-based weapons, to try to capture him. But then he discovers that Jack Russell's actually a victim in this, and so he then helps him and becomes, the hero, the Moon Knight hero that we know. All right, and on to our next book is Marvel Spotlight number 5. But before we get into that, here's a little message from Guy about our 10,000 subscriber video giveaway.
One of you will win this collection of Wolverine comics when the channel hits 10,000 subscribers. This is the 1982's Wolverine miniseries issues 1 through 4 from the legendary team of Frank Miller and Chris Claremont. So let's keep it real simple. If you want to win these books, do 2 things. First, be sure to subscribe to the channel because only subscribers are eligible for this giveaway. Second, when we hit 10,000 subscribers, I will post the giveaway announcement video. You have to see this video to find out who will win, so make sure that you have notifications turned on, because you don't want to miss that. Now let's get back to the discussion.
All right, thanks, Guy. And now onto this book. Yes, this is Marvel Spotlight number 5 from 1972. It's the first appearance of Ghost Rider, with Mike Ploog on art and Roy Thomas as the writer on this. As you can see, this is an absolutely stunning book. The artwork is amazing. What a fantastic, explosive cover for your introduction to the character of Ghost Rider. In this issue, Johnny Blaze makes his deal with Mephisto to save his mentor from cancer. But then the guy dies in a stunt show accident later. So, his deal with Mephisto was all for naught. But that's how we get Ghost Rider. Beautiful, beautiful book. I love this. I got this from my comic shop, actually. This was on consignment, and I got this for $800, if you can believe that, in this condition. I would say this is around a fine condition book. But like I said in a previous video, sometimes you can really find those good deals on there when they have a consignment, sales. And that's from, someone privately selling this book through them. But yeah, it's a great purchase. I love this book so much. It's one of the highlights of my collection for sure. And for the next book in my collection, Silver Surfer number 1. This story was written by Stan Lee with artwork by the legendary John Buscema. I actually didn't pay a thing for this book. Well, not directly. What I did was I took a lot of books that I had duplicates of, or that I didn't really care about that much. And I took them to a comic convention. And a lot of times vendors, you'll see they have big signs, "We buy comics." So I saw that this guy had this copy up there for $600. And I had several books that I was there. I said, "Hey, will you take trade-in for, store credit?" He's like, "Absolutely, I will." So he looked at all the books that I had. He says, "I'll give you $500 for this." So I said, "Well, how about an even trade for that Silver Surfer number 1? And he said, "Deal." So I thought it was a hell of a deal. Worked out great for me. I was looking for this book for my collection. And it's absolutely beautiful. I love this book. Fantastic trade. I think I got a great deal on this. And, he got some books which he can mark up and sell and make some profit on. So I think it worked out for everybody involved. But yeah, I recommend if you have some old books you don't want that have at least some value to them, you take them to a comic shop or a trade show or a comic convention and make some trades, do some deals. It's a lot of fun too. All right, for my next book, I don't think this needs any explanation.
Bringing out the big guns.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my big guns. This is my Avengers #1. Like I said, I don't need to explain a lot about this book. Kirby on art, Lee on story. The Avengers come together to fight Loki. I got this at MegaCon. I actually blew my entire comic budget on this, and it was the first table I went to. Which I don't recommend, doing that. But I saw it up on the rack. I asked how much it was. They gave me a price of $2,500. I looked at it, did some haggling, and I ended up getting this for $2,000. And that was my entire comic book spending budget for the convention. But I gotta say, I'm happy with my decision. It's a fantastic book. I had been looking for one for a very long time at a decent price, and I think I got a hell of a deal on this book. I would say this is around very good to fine condition, and this book usually goes for about anywhere between $2,500 to $3,000 in this condition. But so yeah, I think I got a great deal, and it's a key book, Avengers #1. It's only going to go up in value. I don't see this ever going down. But yeah, definitely one of the very, very high points in my collection. All right, for the next book in my collection, and again, another high point in my collection, which I love and cherish this book so much. I think anybody that is serious about collecting comics should have one of these. This, of course, I'm talking about Marvel Team Up #121 from 1983, the first appearance of Frogman. Al Milgrom and Ed Hannigan on the cover. Beautiful cover. Spider-Man and Human Torch are trying to fight the Speed Demon. And of course, they cannot do it without the help of the incredible Frogman. This book was a comic shop find for me, and I got chills down my spine when I saw it. But yeah, definitely need to purchase this book if you don't already have it, if you can find it anywhere. Usually these books go for about $5. All right, the next book up in my collection is not the most valuable book in my collection, but one of the coolest. This iconic cover is by Steve Ditko, story by Stan Lee. It's from 1966. Beautiful, beautiful cover. I love it so much. It's iconic, like I said. The Spider-Man trapped under rubble story. After a battle with Doc Ock in his undersea or underwater base, he gets trapped under this rubble, and he's got to escape to save his Aunt May with this serum that she needs to save her life. And he's trapped under this rubble, and it's just Spider-Man. He's defeated. He's broken. He's trapped. He can't get out, and he just has to muster his strength and courage and not give up and to get out and save his Aunt May. Very, very cool cover. I love this cover. This book usually you can get up in this condition, which I say is about fine, about $300. So again, not an incredibly expensive book, reasonably affordable and in decent shape. But yeah, an iconic cover.
One of your few DC comics.
Yeah, next up on my comic book collection tour is Adventure Comics 346 from 1966. One of the very few graded DC comics I have. The rest of the books I have to show you are all graded books, and that's simply because I got these signed. I got a lot of signed, graded books. The only other raw books I have are just from when I used to flip books and stuff, and I'm just trying to get rid of them. But these are the Signature Series books that I have that are graded. And like I said, that's the only books I plan to get graded from here out in my collection, is if I get them signed by somebody. But again, this one is not incredibly expensive. What this book represents is the first published story and artwork by Jim Shooter in 1966. He was 14 years old when this story was published. And when I met with him and got him to sign this for me, he said he had actually written that story for this title when he was 13 years old. And he said that all he did to break into comics is he just basically spammed them with letters with his stories constantly until someone took notice and said, hey, this kid's got some talent. But yeah, 14 years old, story and artwork by Jim Shooter. That is crazy to me. They introduced several new characters into the Legion of Superheroes. It's just one of the few DC books I have just for the cool factor of it. You can usually get a book like this in a very fine condition for about $300. So again, it's not incredibly expensive. I just love this book for the cool factor to it. All right, next up in my tour is Secret Wars number 10. I got this 9.8 signed by Mike Zeck, John Beatty, and Jim Shooter. I brought this book in particular because this is probably one of my most favorite Marvel comic covers ever. I love this cover. It's so cool to me. The battle-damaged Doctor Doom. Very awesome cover. I even have a cover reproduction done of this hanging up on the wall of my house. Very cool. But what I have is I have the entire run, 1 through 12, all of them signed by Zeck, Beatty, and Shooter, all graded 9.8. I got the books throughout the years. I bought them as graded books. And back when I was buying them, they were like $40, $50 a piece, except, of course, number 8, which is the big one. I think I paid a couple of $100 for that at the time. But then what happened was all 3 of these guys were going to be at a show in Miami. And this also happened. It was just a beautiful series of events that took place. This is the story in one of Guy's videos where they had mistakenly sent me 3 copies of Amazing Fantasy 15, graded 3, 4, and 5. Those were obviously meant for someone else, and they sent that to me by mistake. And my books had gone somewhere else. And the books I had were, a few $100s each, but nothing on that level. I mean, and I'm looking at 3 books here I could have at the time bought a house for. But yeah, they contacted me pretty quickly. They realized their mix-up, and they said, hey, can we come down? Can we drive there and pick these up? Because I only lived like about an hour and a half from their headquarters. And they said, hey, for being so cool about this, set aside some books and we'll grade them for you, for free. I'm like, oh, awesome. So I'm quickly, in that hour and a half it took them to get there, I'm going through my books, and I gave them like a long box full of books to grade. And when they got there, they were kind of stumped. They're like, we thought you'd have like 4 or 5. I'm like, oh, no. I mean, does the offer still stand? They're like, well, we said we'd grade them. So they did. They took my long box full of books, and I got free grading on them for about 200 books, which was very, very cool. And then I even brought up, hey, I'm going to also be at the show, and I'm going to have some books signed and graded. And they just kind of sighed and looked at me for a second, and they said, okay, fine. And they wrote on a little piece of paper their name and who I need to talk to once I get there. They said, talk to this woman and she will help you out. We'll let her know what's going on. So yes, when I got to the Miami show, I got all my books signed. I went to the CGC people, and of course they witnessed the signatures and everything. And yeah, I got all the signature series books graded for free. All I had to pay for was the signings, which I think was minimal. But yes, so I have the full 1 through 12 issue run signed by all 3 and graded 9.8. I love this collection. It's one of the highlights of my collection. All right, next up in my collection tour is Crossed Plus 100 number 1, signed by Alan Moore. There is not a lot of Alan Moore signed stuff out there. In fact, all I can find is the books from this. It was some kind of event or function or promotional tour thing he was doing, and he's the writer on this series. And I'm not sure what it was. It had to have been in England because I can't imagine him leaving the country. But yeah, he signed a bunch of these things. And I got it on eBay for $250, which I thought was insanely low for an Alan Moore signature series book. I mean, I have never even read Crossed, any of the Crossed books. I do hear it's pretty good. I'm just been trying to find the good jumping on point because I don't want to start with just Cross Plus 100 because, as I understand, that's kind of like a sequel to the original Crossed run. And there's also other little offshoot stories. So I'm trying to find out, okay, where do I need to start on this? And then I probably will because I do hear good things. But yeah, I've never read this series. I just bought it because it's an Alan Moore signed book. And I got it for $250, which was crazy to me. But yeah, I can't find anything else signed by him. Well, I'm sure you could find somebody saying they have something signed by him. And maybe they do, but trying to buy something like an authenticated signature series book signed by Alan Moore is crazy to me. That was only $250. And I actually looked and I found someone selling, well, they had sold the exact same book not too long ago for $360, which again is crazy to me that something, signed by Alan Moore is not worth a lot more just for his signature alone. I mean, I can't imagine like a Watchmen #1 with his signature on it would be insanely high, or any of the other books that he's most noted for. All right, next up in my collection is a Daredevil #16 from 1966, a story by Stan Lee, artwork by, of course, John Romita Sr. I bought this at a comic shop. At the time, I think I paid about $200 for it. Now, a book in this condition goes for anywhere between $400 to $500. But of course, I have no idea what the value would be signed, because I could buy this just unsigned for about that much right now. But again, it's signed by Stan Lee and John Romita Sr., so the value of it is whatever someone is willing to pay, basically. But I would have estimated it's slightly above $400 to $500 with their signatures on it.
They're both gone.
They are both gone, unfortunately. What a loss to the comic book world. But yeah, what's interesting about this book, this is the first issue where John Romita has drawn Spider-Man. He started off doing some retouches on issue 14 of Daredevil. And then he started off on issue 12 doing some retouching on the artwork. And then again in 13, he did some retouches and some inking. And then by issue 14, he was the regular artist on the book. So I guess they were pretty impressed. So then in 16, he draws his first Spider-Man. This is his first published Spider-Man artwork, which is very cool. So of course, when I saw this, and I had the opportunity to get it signed by Stan Lee and John Romita, I absolutely jumped at it. And I love this book a lot. Again, it's not the most expensive book in the world, but it's very cool. I love it for the cool factor. And when you're out there collecting comics or going to a convention, don't forget to quench that thirst with a delicious Dr. Pepper. That's just what the doctor ordered. All right, next up, I have probably one of the first higher-end books I ever purchased was Avengers #4. I got this. It was a comic shop find. I bought it for $300. I mean, this was a while ago, so it was reasonably cheap for me at the time. And yeah, this book is really awesome. I think it's a decent condition. It's a 5.5. And what happened was I took this to MegaCon because Stan Lee was there, and I got him to sign it for me there. And the people who were doing the grading for me, they were the witnesses because they are a third-party witness, because at the time CGC had no witnesses. So that was kind of a pain, and they recommended a couple of other people that were there for third-party witnesses. So I went to this place called Desert Wind. I don't know if they do things anymore. I used to go through them a lot because they would do private signings and things like you can mail them to your books and they would do private signings. So I went with them and they were a witness for me. And of course I wanted to meet Stan Lee, So they got it signed. I got it signed. And then they told me, hey, we're doing actually a private signing with Joe Simon in a couple of weeks. If you'd like us to hang on to this, we'll get it signed by him too. I'm like, well, how much is that going to cost me? They're like, oh, like $30. I'm like, $30 to get Joe Simon to sign my comic. One of the creators of Captain America, the original creators of Captain America. Absolutely. That was a no-brainer. So yeah, I have a book signed by Stan Lee and Joe Simon. Very awesome. It's the first Silver Age appearance of Captain America when, Giant man reaches into the water and pulls him out of there, and they thaw him out, and the rest is history. Yeah, very cool book. I love this book. In this condition, you can usually find one anywhere between $1,500 to $2,000. But again, signed by Joe Simon and Stan Lee, I have no idea. I have no idea what it would be worth. Your guess is as good as mine. I couldn't find anything similar signed by both of them being sold, at least as far back as I could check. All right, this is Marvel Premiere number 50. Again, not the most valuable book in the world. You can get these pretty cheap in this condition for about $40 to $50. What's super cool about this book for me is that I went to MegaCon and Stan Lee and Alice Cooper were there. I had this book already in my collection. I have the full run of Marvel Premiere. I dug this out of there. It's in pretty good condition. I mean, it's a 9.2. So yeah, I took it there and I had it signed by Stan Lee and Alice Cooper, who actually contributed to the story. I believe the plot was his idea, and he had some help from some of the writers at Marvel, like Roger Stern and Jim Salicrup, I think, helped him out with the story, cleaning it up a little bit. But yeah, it was very cool meeting Alice Cooper and him signing the book. He's like, oh yeah, this was a lot of fun. They gave me a little tour of Marvel when I went over there. Really nice guys. He's like, I had a blast. We made a whole day of it. I got to have lunch with them and everything and just hang out. Really good group of guys. He had nothing but a lot of praise to say about the Marvel guys that worked with him and helped him out on this book. And of course, Stan signed it. He got a chuckle out of it when he signed. He's like, "Oh, I remember this. This is one of our funner collaborations that they did back in the day." Of course, he was editor at the time. But yeah, just another book in my collection, just that I love, just because it's so cool. It's really fun, and I had a really good experience getting this book signed and stuff, and meeting these people. This is my Amazing Spider-Man 39 from 1966. This is the first issue that John Romita Sr. takes over artwork for the comic. And of course, Stan Lee is the writing. And plus, it's one of the coolest story titles ever. How Green Was My Goblin? I mean, that's cool. That's cool. And of course, the cover is awesome. I love this book. It's, his first published artwork, and the story is crazy. Spider-Man gets sprayed by some kind of gas that deadens his spider sense. So he's on his way home, and he's changing into his Peter Parker clothes, and Green Goblin sees him, and it doesn't set off his spider sense. So then Green Goblin captures him and takes him back to his hideout, and that's where he reveals that he's Norman Osborn. So yeah, crazy amount of stuff happens in the story. These days it'd probably take him a full, 12-issue story arc to just get through that, but that was all done in one book, which is crazy. And plus the artwork is just so awesome. Of course, I got it signed. Awesome, awesome, awesome book. Up next is my Amazing Spider-Man number 41, the first appearance of Rhino. I bought this at a convention. It was a convention find. I got it for a pretty decent price. I paid $100 for this, and I thought it was in remarkably good condition. I thought maybe some color touch or some restoration had been done, something trimming. But then I checked it out pretty thoroughly, and it looked good. So I'd had this in my collection for a little while. When I had the opportunity to get it signed by Stan Lee, and then John Romita did a private signing, and I had to mail it in for that. I've never actually got to meet John Romita Sr. as much as I would have loved to. All the stuff I have signed by him, I had to do a mail-in and have someone else get it signed, unfortunately. But yeah, it's the first Rhino. This book is generally in just an 8.5. Unsigned is about $1,000 to $1,200. Again, signed, I have no idea what it would go for. And again, I did some research. I could not find one in this condition that had been sold within the recent past, signed by both of them. That's the trick of signature series books is finding it. Okay, what's the value of this signed by these particular people at this specific grade? Sometimes it can be pretty difficult to try to evaluate something like that. But I mean, of course, if you throw it up in an auction or whatever, its value is what someone's willing to pay for it, as always. But yeah, very awesome cover, classic Romita artwork. Very cool. Very great introduction to the character. I think he's hired by some kind of foreign agency to kidnap John Jameson, of course, the son of J. Jonah, because he's an astronaut and they want to get his secrets from him or something. But, the typical plot from, the 60s, the Russian communist villains, Very cool story. Very fun. Next up is Amazing Spider-Man number 55. Again, not one of the most valuable books in my collection, but definitely one of the coolest covers. Again, John Romita artwork, excellent cover with his, Spider-Man reflected in his goggles, that he wears, those goofy goggles. And I love how when John Romita signed it, he gives him the monobrow. I thought that was hilarious. Really good signature placement on the book. Really clear. Really legible. Yeah, what a legend. But yeah, this book is generally, in this condition, about $400. Again, not a super expensive book, but when I saw that the John Romita Sr. had a private signing, I dug through all my stuff to see the best books that I could find. And this one definitely stood out as one of the cooler covers that he ever did. But yeah, very cool book for me.
Now, the face with the reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Was he the first one to ever do that? Because that's a common trope.
I thought about that, yeah, because you see that quite a bit. Others reproducing that, the reflection in the goggles or the eyes or the blades or whatever. He couldn't have been the first, but definitely one of the best. But that's one of those things like, how do you even research that?
I don't know.
What do I Google,
Yeah.
All right, this is my final book in my tour. This, of course, is Amazing Spider-Man number 129. I don't need to explain to anybody what this is. This is from 1974. I bought this at a comic shop several years ago. And it was just one of those things, and I was in the right place at the right time. Someone had brought this into a comic shop to sell it, and that guy was walking out the door as I was walking in. And so I saw it on the counter. I'm like, wow, where'd you get this? He's like, oh, that guy I just paid $300 for this. And so I made him an offer on the spot. I said, I'll give you $5 right now, cash. He said, wow, that's the easiest $200 I ever made in my life. And he handed it right over to me for $500 on the spot. So I got it for a hell of a deal. He made a really quick, easy $200 out of it for almost no work whatsoever. So yeah, hell of a find. And it's in remarkably good condition, but still, it's at a low grade. It's a 6.5. And the reason for that is on the back, there is a pretty significant crease on one of the corners that can't be pressed out. I've already tried. And there's a tear. There's a small tear on the back. Then there's a couple of other very minor issues that all, make it a 6.5. But the front of the book presents very beautifully. The very minor issues are on the back of the book. But yeah, like that significant crease is one of them. But yeah, I got 3 signatures on this. I got Stan Lee, I got John Romita Sr., and Jerry Conway, who are all contributed to this book. Very cool book. A lot of people, this would be the highlight of their collection, and it's definitely a highlight of mine. One of the highlights anyway. I of course, I like my Avengers 1 and the Silver Surfer books a little bit more. But yeah, this is definitely up there for me in my collection as a gem in the collection. All right, so that's it for this episode. I do have many, many more books in my collection, some really cool stuff. Again, not just because it's super valuable, but just because it's cool and there's a cool little story behind it of, how I got it or the circumstances of where I was when I got it. So let us know if you want to see more of our stuff. Guy has a bunch more books he could show you, and so do I. So let us know. And that's it for now. So keep collecting comics, keep reading comics, keep supporting your local comic shops, and keep tuning into the channel. And make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. Bye for now.